President Trump has declared that he wants America to buy Greenland. The problem is they're owned by Denmark and they don't want to sell. Trump has threatened to levy very high tariffs if he doesn't get his way, and he's not ruling out the use of military force to take the world's biggest island. So why does he want it so much? And is he going to get it? Well, first a bit of brief background info. Geographically, Greenland is part of the continent of North America, but for over 1,000 years it's been politically and culturally associated with Europe, and in particular Norway and Denmark. It was a Norwegian that first settled the island over 1,000 years ago, and when the Norse settlements disappeared, it was an 18th century expedition led by a Danish-Norwegian missionary that saw a new Danish colonisation. Now, for the 16th to 19th century, Denmark and Norway were in a kind of union, but that changed after their defeat in the Napoleonic Wars, which saw the Kingdom of Norway ceded to the King of Sweden, but not Norway's overseas possessions, which remained with Denmark. One of these was Greenland. But despite this history, the US government has frequently discussed the idea of acquiring Greenland. During the Second World War, American forces occupied Greenland to prevent it from falling into German hands when Denmark fell to the Nazis. And when the war ended, they didn't leave. In fact, the US secretly offered to buy the island for $100 million. And while Denmark refused to sell, it also abandoned attempts to get the Americans to go, and a treaty in 1951 gave the US a significant role in Greenland's defence. Today, while the island is home to a crucial American space base, it remains a self-governing country within the Kingdom of Denmark. Its population are citizens of Denmark and incidentally the European Union. So why does America want it so badly? Well, it becomes a bit clearer if we do this. Greenland is on the edge of the Arctic Circle, which encompasses the lands and territorial waters of 8 different countries. Due to the Arctic Circle being home to some of the roughest terrain in the world, some of the most treacherous waters, and some of the harshest weather found anywhere on planet Earth, it has remained one of the world's last wildernesses. But this is all changing. Global warming is unlocking the Arctic and turning it into the next great geopolitical arena. For the United States, the impact of this can be summed up in 2 words: opportunity and threat. And Trump sees Greenland as potentially the key to both. First, the opportunities. Global warming has seen Arctic sea ice decline at a rate of over 12% per decade, and so new shipping routes are becoming available. The Northern Sea Route shortens shipping times from European markets to China by up to 40% when compared to the route through the Suez Canal. Today, it's only navigable for 3 or 4 months a year, but melting ice caps could make it a year-round option as soon as 2030. Similarly, the Northwest Passage through the Canadian Arctic archipelago was once impassable due to thick ice, but is increasingly opening up in the summer months. This route chops some 4,000 nautical miles off the journey from Europe to Asia compared to the Panama Canal. And by some estimates, by 2040, a third shipping route, the Polar Sea Route, will become navigable for commercial shipping for most of the year. These are huge opportunities to take advantage of. Not only would the reduction in distance translate into significant cost savings, they would also provide an alternative to today's routes, which are becoming less and less safe. The second opportunity in the Arctic concerns natural resources. The region is estimated to contain 13% of the world's undiscovered oil reserves and 30% of its undiscovered natural gas. It is also believed to be rich in minerals, as well as gold, diamonds, copper and nickel. The latter is increasingly important to the batteries required by today's tech-driven world. For centuries, it has not been worth the money or effort to reach these resources, but as the ice melts, their extraction is becoming more and more possible. But while all these opportunities are opening up, America is at risk of being frozen out. With trade routes in mind, and of course its own national security, Russia has been taking measures to secure its influence in the region. In July 2022, President Putin declared that the Russian military will defend its claims to the Arctic by all means necessary, and he's been backing that up with actions. Russia has around 33% more military bases in the Arctic Circle than NATO, and more icebreaker ships. The Kola Peninsula serves as Russia's Northern Fleet headquarters and is the primary home of their sea-based nuclear deterrent. Russia has also been working closely with China, which claims to be a near-Arctic state and has a goal of creating a polar Silk Road to connect Russia to the Belt and Road Trade Initiative. Beijing has emphasised that the Arctic represents a scramble for new strategic spaces and that it cannot rule out the possibility of using force. By comparison, America is lagging behind in this new geopolitical competition, and that's partly due to its vastly smaller Arctic coastline. Around 53% of the Arctic coastline is Russian. American, just 3.8%. And this matters. By international law, coastal nations own all the organic and mineral resources found in what is termed their exclusive economic zone, a boundary of 200 nautical miles from that nation's coast, or 350 nautical miles when that nation has a wide continental shelf. A continental shelf is the underwater landmass that extends from a continent, creating a shallow area before the ocean floor drops steeply down to the deep ocean. It's like the edge of a continent that is submerged under the sea. And so the Arctic has become a booming market for geologists, with country after country eager to prove that it is their continental shelf that extends into emerging shipping lanes and into this resource-rich region. This new sea grab is something America can't afford to miss out on, and owning Greenland would put them back in the game. And that's before mentioning that Greenland has substantial untapped natural resources of its own. But the opportunities that the Arctic offers are just part of the story. The other big motivation for Trump and others like him are the security threats to the mainland United States. These are what Trump is most openly talking about as his motivation for wanting Greenland. First, on several occasions, foreign vessels have turned up unexpectedly in waters that NATO member Denmark aims to defend. Detecting foreign vessels, even a Russian submarine, has all too often been through pure luck. And with Russian vessels already believed to have their capability of tapping or severing undersea cables, this is becoming increasingly concerning. Second, Greenland lies in what was one of the Cold War's most critical strategic transit routes, the Greenland-Iceland-United Kingdom Gap, the GIUK Gap for short. Ships travelling from the north must pass through here to reach the Atlantic, and thus the United States. For the duration of the Cold War, NATO made closing this gap a top priority in case Soviet ballistic missile submarines sailed to within firing range of New York or Washington DC. When the Cold War ended, the GIUK gap was neglected, but as the war in Ukraine shows, NATO has to remain vigilant, and growing tensions have propelled the gap back to centre stage. Many in America believe that it is only through unimpeded access to Greenland, by owning it, that this gap can be closed and the security flaw fixed. So, could America buy Greenland? Well, the US has history when it comes to buying land. Most recently, in 1917, it bought the US Virgin Islands from Denmark. Before that, it bought Alaska from the Russian Empire, Louisiana from France, as well as territory from Mexico. Denmark, however, has stated that Greenland is most definitely not up for sale. And it is also not clear that 57,000 Greenlanders would be willing to become part of the US. After all, they assumed self-rule from Denmark in 2009 on the basis that it gives them the right to one day declare independence. It would seem odd, therefore, to surrender control to America. Certainly, Greenland's Prime Minister has ruled it out, saying, "We will not lose our long struggle for freedom." Whatever happens, it's an issue that is not going to go away, because whether through cooperation or acquisition, America can't afford to leave the Arctic to its rivals. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy our journalism, please do consider subscribing and pressing that notification bell for when new videos come up.